Okay, we're going to get rolling here. We have a really large meeting and I'm still getting requests from people, so I have a feeling it's going to get larger. So that's pretty cool. For those of you who aren't regular members of our group, I'm Liz Estes. I'm the chairperson currently of the group. And I'm just going to welcome you and close this out. I don't have a lot to do today, which is really good. Typically in a regular meeting, we would have an agenda and it would have our mission statement at the top. And I think with what we're doing tonight, it's just a really great idea to restate our mission statement, which says that Indivisible Huron Valley is a local nonpartisan group of citizens, and our mission is to actively protect, defend, and promote the principles of democracy for all. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. So that all being said, I'm going to pass it over to Sherry Masson, the lead on our Democracy 2020 team, and she's going to introduce the fine candidates that we have here tonight.
Hi, everyone. On behalf of Indivisible Huron Valley's Democracy 2020 team, we thank all of our candidates for attending our forum, A Woman's Place is in the House. We know there are multiple Zoom events going on tonight, so we really appreciate your willingness to share your views with our members and other guests from around the state that are on this call tonight, and even out of state. So we have a good collection of people who will be very interested in what you have to say. We extended an invitation to participate to all women candidates from both parties running for the Michigan House of Representatives in the districts where our members reside. We have 5 candidates with us tonight representing districts 43, 44, 38, and 39. In addition to accepting our invitation to participate tonight, each of our candidates that you'll be meeting have been given our Indivisible Blue Ribbon Candidate designation. We're a values-driven organization, and so before we publicize a candidate's events or their requests for volunteers, we like them to fill out a survey. And our steering committee reviews their responses and decides who will receive the Blue Ribbon Candidate designations. So let's get started and meet our candidates for tonight, and I'll be reading them in alphabetical order. Starting with Nicole Breadon. Nicole is running to represent District 43, which includes Independence Township, Lake Angeles, Village of Clarkston, part of Waterford Township. Nicole is a mom of 2 teenage boys and has been the wife of Todd for 20 years. She comes from Indivisible roots. She was the former chair of Indivisible, North Oakland Indivisible. Nicole is a social justice activist with deep roots in her community of Clarkston. She is running unopposed in the August primary, and her opponent in November will be incumbent Republican Andrea Schroeder. Thanks for being here, Nicole. Kelly is running to represent District 38, which includes Lyon Township, part of Northville, the city of Novi, Novi Township, and the city of South Lyon and city of Walled Lake. Kelly is a mom, an attorney, and a Novi council member. She has lived in Michigan her whole life and almost entirely in the Northville and Novi, and has spent her legal and political career advocating for workers and union rights, children, environmentally friendly and non-discriminatory policies. Kelly's opponent in the August primary is Megan McAllister. Thanks for being here, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
Denise is running to represent District 44, which includes Milford, Highland, White Lake, Springfield Townships, and part of Waterford. Denise is a retired art teacher and union president who was elected to the Huron Valley School Board in 2018. She has strong roots in her community, and Denise continues to promote strong, equitably funded public schools and local art organizations. Denise is running unopposed in the August primary and will face incumbent Republican Matt Maddock in November. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Megan is running to represent District 38, which includes Lyon Township, part of Northville, City of Novi, Novi Township, the City of South Lyon, and the City of Walled Lake. Megan is a wife, mother, and community servant with over a decade in business. While pursuing a master's in counseling and art therapy, she was inspired to get into politics. She's an alumni of the Emerge Michigan training program and a precinct delegate. Megan's opponent in the August primary is Kelly Breen. Thanks for being with us, Megan.
Thanks for having me.
Julia is running to represent District 39, which includes West Bloomfield Township, Commerce Township, and the city of Wixom. Julia is a registered nurse who has been a leader in the field of healthcare, patient advocacy, and public health for over a decade. She's the wife of Ben and the mom of 4 children. Julia is running unopposed in the August primary and will face incumbent Republican Ryan Berman in November. Thanks for being with us.
Our pleasure.
So that's our lineup. Really the easiest decision we had to make when we were planning tonight's event was deciding who we should invite to be the moderator for our forum tonight. We decided it had to be somebody that had a little name recognition, somebody with a little political know-how, and most importantly, because we'll be dealing with a lot of serious issues, we wanted somebody who could provide a little comic relief, you know, when needed. So Laura Dodd was the obvious choice. She's the charter member of Indivisible Huron Valley, so there's a name recognition. She ran for state rep in District 44 in 2018, so there's a political know-how. And as far as the comic relief is concerned, she's the mom of a 6-year-old who provides her with material every day. So I'm very happy to turn things over to our moderator, Laura Dodd.
Thank you, Sherry, and thanks everybody for joining us. What a great way to highlight some of these really important female candidates running in our district surrounding us. Hopefully everybody who's listening will have a chance to vote for one of these ladies. It's exciting to be able to vote for somebody you really believe in. So I know that these women are some of the strongest candidates out there in the state, and we're very fortunate to be able to hear from them tonight. I'm not able to do anything normally, so I have a few little props here that I will introduce. First, every one of our candidates is going to get one question. I'm going to pick the question out of this hat and the name of the candidate out of this hat. One's going to be on my right, one on my left. So it's sort of a grab bag. Whoever gets whichever question is the one they can answer. Now, there may be questions that candidates want to offer a rebuttal. And if you were all sitting there, we would give you some sort of little tool to have so you know if you've done your rebuttal. But unfortunately, you're sitting there, and I had to make tools. So I built a little garden with your faces on them. If you see your face here, you know you still have your rebuttal. But then when you choose to do your rebuttal, you'll get plucked out of our little garden and set to the side. We're also going to have a few light and fluffy questions in between our more hard-hitting questions, just to help people get to know you and your personality a little bit more. So I'll start out here. The COVID-19 pandemic has really shined a light on our country, and some of the things we are doing well, and some of the things we really need to improve. It's putting pressure on our political structures, and we need to look at a lot of things in a new light. So that's where our conversation is focused today, and each question is sort of tilted in that way. But of course, if you want to tilt it in another way, you are welcome to do that. So and I'm seeing notes in the chat. I need to move somebody's puppet. Here, I'm scooching them in a little bit so they're a little tighter so you can see them. There we go. So first question, I'm pulling a person and a question out of my hat. First question is going to be healthcare. And the first candidate is going to be Nicole Breadon. And the question is, we need to do better as a state in treating and supporting our mentally ill. Please share at least one thing you'll work for in the area of mental health. And before you answer, we do have a timekeeper who will ring a bell. And if bell ringing doesn't work, we can eventually mute you if you go on for too long. So those are our tactics for keeping time. So giving that to you, and Nicole, if you're ready.
Well, first I want to say so many thanks to Indivisible Huron Valley for inviting me. I'm kind of on the edge of the area, and I'm very very grateful to be here to join you all tonight. As you know, I'm the former leader of North Oakland Indivisible, and I really do miss that role of activism. It's a little bit of a trickier area to navigate as a candidate. You don't get to do as many fun things as an activist does, but you know, maybe I'll go back to it one day. So healthcare, especially mental health care, is very personal. I've had experience with it with my own family, and it's a very you know, it's a very hard issue for families to deal with. My own experience was my grandma worked for Clinton Valley, which was a state-run mental health facility in Pontiac. And I used to visit her at work sometimes, and so I got to see what a state-run facility was like, and it was a very, very old building. I don't know if anyone ever saw Clinton Valley, but it was almost like a castle. It was so old. And then when Engler was governor, he closed most of them. And he did this as a quest to cut funding and to balance the budget, but that was at the expense of lives. The mentally ill were either they went into group homes, or a lot of them ended up on the streets. I worked for group homes in my early 20s, and so I saw a lot of these patients firsthand. And some of them were older patients, and you could tell they experienced a lot of trauma, either in the facilities before or in transition. So I got a lot of good experience of what mental health looks like close up. Unfortunately, a lot of those folks on the streets ended up in our prisons and our jails because people maybe didn't know how to handle these situations and these diagnoses. So I guess I would, to help mental health and to make Michigan a better state for mental health, I would stand up to the movement of privatizing mental health. We need to keep it state funded so we don't make a profit off of mental health. Also, I would work on making sure that mental health is addressed as an illness and not a crime. Because again, a lot of our folks end up in jails, and I think that's not the place where they belong. Do I need to take up the whole 5 minutes?
No, you take up just as much as you want.
Okay, well that's about it. I mean, I have a very little experience with this, but through my research and my experience, this is what I believe in, that we need to treat mental health as an illness, not a crime. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes in our state a lot of times.
Very good. All right. Would anyone like to use their opportunity here to, looks like Megan has her hand up. So if we can switch over to Megan. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. Also, thank you so much for having me. Mental health is something that is near and dear to me. Like we had heard in my little intro, I was in my master's program for counseling and art therapy. And that is when I saw my pivotal moment of needing to go into politics, because I saw firsthand how inaccessible and unaffordable healthcare was, especially in mental health. And one of the things that really is so important to me is that this is something that we need to be working on every day. Just this spring, it was a little bit before the doors ended up having to stop being knocked. I knocked the door of a woman, and I gave her my background about me being in mental health. And I could see the tears welling up in her eyes as soon as I started to talk about it. She told me the very sad story about losing her nephew just the week prior to suicide because he never got access to mental health. A young man in his early 20s who never looked for help because mental health is stigmatized in a way in our culture that he never wanted to go and to get assistance. I believe that that is really one of the biggest things that is on our agenda with mental health, is to get rid of the stigma. I think that we could do something in our state in a way in which we could create mental health as a wellness check, to roll it into that preventative care, at least just one visit. a way in which that we can normalize the fact that mental health is a part of our whole being and how important that is for all of us, not just those who have extreme mental health problems, but the everyday issues that many of us face, and especially right now in COVID, that all of us are feeling. The isolation, the lack of our interaction. There's so many things that we need to take care of in mental health. But I think first thing we have to say is that it's okay to not be okay. And that mental health needs to be a part of that wrapped in preventative care wellness here in Michigan.
Thank you so much, Megan. So in between each question, we're going to do a quick little get to know you. And these are just meant to be real quick. Here is one of the favorites from the list that I put together. If you could have one song played every time you enter a room, what song would it be and why? I'm going to let John, who's responsible for the muting and unmuting, decide who to start with, and we'll just do it random each time.
All right, we'll start with Julia. I'll just go in the order.
Of course, I get to go first on this. I would like to say though, Laura, I want my puppet when you're done. So please mail that to me. You know, I would say what song I want played every time I walk into a room is, this is really corny, but Can't Hold Us by Macklemore is always my get pumped up song. And that's I'm going with it.
All right, good. Megan, I'll do you next. And
All right, well, I'll go super corny with the first thing that popped into my head, which is from the Goofy movie, which is one of my childhood favorites that my kids have just recently watched, thanks to Disney Plus. But that would be Stand Out, one of the main theme songs from the song.
cool. Cartoons are awesome. All right, Denise.
I have so many songs that I like. I was hoping to go last on this, but since I'm here now, let's see. I love the Beatles, so I'm going to have to choose one of many favorite Beatles songs. And I guess in this day and age, when things are kind of dark, I'd have to go with "Here Comes the Sun." It's a cheery song. I think it makes everybody happy. So that's my pick tonight.
That is definitely a good one. All right. Kelly.
Theme from the Avengers. That's actually kind of an easy decision for me. It's if anybody has seen any of the Avengers movies, and let's face it, you can't escape them. They talk about in there, especially in Endgame, whatever it takes, which is also a great song by Imagine Dragons, so I wouldn't mind having that either, but that's what I'm going with.
Awesome. Ton of quality songs. All right, Nicole.
Well, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, and I am a big fan of yacht rock. And so Kenny Loggins, This Is It. This is my song that I listen to, well, in the 2018 cycle. This is the song I listen to in the shower when I wanted to get ready to give a speech or do something that was a little on my comfort zone. This is it, because this is it. This is it. We have to take the majority.
I'm in. All right. Laura, back to you.
Mine is Flight of the Bumblebee, just if you were curious. Seems appropriate. All right, we're moving on to our next one. I'm picking out of my topic hat and my candidate hat. We're going, oh, look at this. It's like it's rigged. Education. And I say rigged because look at who it is, Denise Forrest. So Denise, you get the education question. And I don't think I said before, it's 5 minutes for the person answering the question and 3 minutes for follow-up. So so here we go with an education question, and boy, what a time to talk about education, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So one unfortunate aspect of the Corona experience is the closing of schools. What changes in policy must happen so in the event of a second wave of the virus, there is less disruption in our kids' education and distance learning is more equitable?
Well, the stars are aligned tonight. So here comes the sun and here comes this answer. This is a really tough question to answer when it's framed in this way, is how can we teach digitally when we're stuck at home in this pandemic. So I'm going to kind of start backwards a little bit, because this idea of equitability and technology has been kind of on the radar of educators for 15 years. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit and keep it in my 5 minutes. There's a lot of inequities now that people are realizing with who has access to computers, technology, who has access to bandwidth. This problem really started about 12 years ago. For a while there, I was going up to Lansing and helping to review test questions for the MEP. At that time, it was for the MEP as it relates to cultural bias. So it was quite interesting. But at that time, everyone was saying, in a year or two, we're going to go all digital with our testing. And the question came up in a room of educators is, well, how can you do that? So few people have access to technology at that time. And if you have access to technology, there's varying levels of what kids know how to do, and kids who've never been exposed, and you shove a computer in front of them. Now, fast forward, we have testing in school for kindergartners, and they're learning how to press keys and not use their fingers across the screen. So, it's pretty tough. Clearly, with the onset of this pandemic, the question still remains, as districts this year scrambled to meet the needs, like in the drop of a hat, to meet the needs digitally with students. And it took a few weeks to get on board with this. And now we've spent about 3 months now working through these problems. As it relates to Huron Valley, we're a district that does pretty good with technology, although we're a low-funded district. So we didn't have a one-on-one computer Chromebooks with our kids. So kids would have to, in a classroom, you'd have carts that move around. But we had about 200 families that did not have access to Chromebooks. So our district, families picked up Chromebooks, checked them out. Then we had about 40 families who had zero bandwidth at all, no access to the internet. And Comcast offered some free internet service, but you couldn't have an outstanding bill. So families, that lapsed in their payments still didn't have access. So we rectified that. There's a new 5G 5 Lite that comes with Chromebooks already installed, and so we had that available for our students. So we were lucky, but we paid I think it's roughly $51,000 to make this available to our students. Imagine if kids had zero access to computers, like they can't get them. So going forward, the money is going to have to come from somewhere. And I'll get to that in a minute. But some districts, rural districts, have zero bandwidth, and they're not, that's not coming. So they had to scramble and put packets together for their students, whether they had 500 kids or 8,000 kids, and so that took some time. And so how do we get internet service, cable, and bandwidth out to those families? Sometimes local libraries have access to the internet, so families could sit outside in a parking lot, and that's not that conducive to learning. It's hard enough sitting in front of a computer screen. So that's going to be a bigger problem, is how we access all kids. Going forward, though, the only good thing out of this pandemic is that, being on the school board in Huron Valley now, that we're thinking about how we can service our kids in the fall. So we have at least a little bit of lead time to work through these problems. So that's going to be helpful. But again, it's going to be a matter of getting our students access to Chromebooks. Now, the title programs. You probably all heard of Title I, free and reduced lunch. There's like 4 or 5 title programs, and the policy this year has been to relax what that money, that's federal money, what that money can be used for. So a lot of the title money, I will wrap up and say that the CARES Act title money and the money is either going to have to come from the state of Michigan or the federal government. And that's, we'll wait to be seen as how we can take care of our kids.
All right, it's back to me. We were about to mute you, Denise. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. It's so
You
hard.
have a lot to say on this one. You could probably talk for the whole couple hours on this, and it's an important topic and one that I think a lot of us are struggling with right now. So would anybody like to rebut or add?
Kelly, it looked like.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Denise, for that perspective. And as the wife of a public school teacher, the daughter of a public school teacher, education funding is high in my list of priorities of things to fix when I get to Lansing. And this is something that I've discussed a lot with Jim Pearson, who was on the Huron Valley School Board. What we've seen over the last several years is generally actually federal revenue's gone up, business and across the entire state of Michigan, business revenue's gone up, state revenue's gone down. And in order to fix the funding, we're going to have to look at a couple different solutions. And one thing that we've talked about, or I've talked about on my doors and everywhere else, is the School Refinance Collaborative Report, which tells us how much we need to be spending, but not necessarily where we're going to get the money. One thing that we really should be doing, though, is advocating for fully funded IDEA programs to get fully funded IDEA from the federal government. That will help free up general funds for our students. So anybody who has kids that need that extra help, whether for special needs, money for special needs kids comes out of the general fund, and then that is less money to spread around to the general school population. And in this COVID world that we're dealing with, we are seeing a lot of inequities across the system. As Denise mentioned with broadband, there's not broadband across the state, and kids need that in order to learn remotely and distance and through distance. The base that we have for the school finance report is $9,590 per child. And then you have to add on extra money for kids that live in rural areas, for kids that are English was a second language. And one thing that is also a problem with school funding is we're not spending enough on our administration and our staff. We have currently about 929 kids per a single school counselor. The ratio should really be 200 to 1. School psychologists, they're 4,800 to 1. It should be 400 to 1. So then the big question is, where's the money going to come from? Well, first we need to stop rating the K-12 fund. You need to stop shifting money from K-12 to higher education, and money that comes from the state general fund should not be going into the pension system. That money should be spent in the classrooms. It is erroneous when the GOP says that they are spending more per pupil than ever, when that is absolutely and patently false. The money is not going towards teacher training. The money is not going towards Chromebooks. The money is being put right back into the pension system, which the state closed needlessly. So a few things that I want to do when we get to Lansing is to fix revenue sharing so that communities can get the money that they need to get broadband, so that schools can get those Chromebooks. And another thing, which we haven't talked about yet, is Prop A and Headley. We need to make sure that we can reverse the decision that Prop A brought so that local communities can go ahead with that self-correcting mechanism, roll back up their tax rates so that schools and local governments can get the money that they need to do all these things we've talked about, particularly with broadband and technology access.
Thanks very much, Kelly. Oh, I have to pluck Kelly here from our garden. Getting so sparse. All right, so thanks very much. We're going to do one more getting to know you question, and This one is just a silly one, and it's going to involve some acting on your part, or face making or whatever. So what I want you to do is demonstrate your most used emoji. I don't think there's a finger flipping off emoji. If there is, go to your next most used emoji, please. Mine right now, I think due to this crisis is, so that's what I'm talking about. And Jonathan, you can pick who goes first.
All right, we'll go in reverse order this time. So Kelly.
It's a toss-up between the disbelief face, where you've got like, I can't do it my own self. Like, I'm not like The Rock where you raise one eyebrow. That one, and the fire one, where basically it seems like everything's on fire all the time. Those are the two I usually flip back and forth between.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. All right, Nicole.
So my favorite emoji right now is the eye roll, because just the other day I read a comment on the Michiganders Against Mild Inconvenience group, and they were trying to compare the arrows in the grocery store to keep social distancing. They compared it to the arrows at Auschwitz. So that's a lot of eye rolls.
Awesome. Denise.
Well, my go-to one is the crazy face, because there's a lot of crazy things happening in the world, and sometimes I'm one of those crazy people. So I go with that hands down.
All right, Megan.
These days, it feels like it's the I don't know split with the like heart, all the loves, trying to keep everybody positive, but man, who knows what's going on right now.
All right, and Julia.
My favorite emoji all the time is the laugh cry emoji. So, I think it's a good combination of laughing and crying at the same time, even though that's not always the intent of it, just because I feel like that's all we're doing right now is just laughing and crying. And then I agree with Megan, I do a lot of the like, okay, whatever.
Thank you for humoring me and acting out your favorite emoji. I know many of you are frequent GIF users. Wait for that in the second round of questions. I'll make you act out your favorite GIF. All right, moving on to our next question here. I'm pulling out my person and my question. Looks like we're gonna do living wage. And the candidate is Kelly Breen. During the corona crisis, we have seen the inequity that exists across the state of Michigan. This is most notable among the growing number of people who don't earn a living wage. What is one thing you would strive for as a new state legislator to address this problem, this huge problem?
Just to start with, I hate the one thing, because there are no simple answers to any of these massive problems. It's like from my favorite show, The West Wing. I hate 10-word answers, because that gives you like a bumper sticker, but it doesn't embrace the scope of the problem. And maybe some of you remember that show In Living Color, where they had that one Jamaican family where everybody worked 5, 6, 10 jobs. That is preposterous that we have to do that in this day and age, when we have some people making millions and millions of dollars, and maybe they've earned it, but you have people that are working 40 hours plus, and they can't even pay the bills. So a few things I think that we need to do. We had the one fair wage ballot provision, in which the legislature gutted in the lame duck session. And I think, when I say legislature, we all know who I mean. People should be able to just work one job. The minimum wage right now, the slow incremental increase is not going to cut it. It's just not. You should be able to put food on the table, pay the rent, working 40 hours a week in one job. Other things that we need to look at is restoring prevailing wage for our union brothers and sisters, and also restore the union bargaining rights. The Janus decision is one of the worst things that's happened to working people, and we need to do everything we can to reverse the ill effects of that. One thing that I was hoping to bring forward on Novi City Council, but that was quickly shut down, is in the light of the fact that we've gotten rid of prevailing wage in Michigan, is to work with a fair contracting provision, which would force municipalities to look at more than the bottom line when it comes to awarding jobs. They would have to look at health and safety records, whether or not companies are treating their employees fairly, whether or not they're categorizing employees fairly, you know, such as maybe trying to make employees independent contractors versus full-time earners. By doing that, if we were to enact that across the state, we would make sure that companies that have a better track record of treating their employees correctly and paying them adequately are awarded these jobs. The EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, we need to make sure that that is shored up and doubled. Again, this is not a simple question. Even people who want to work and can't, like people who are on workers' compensation or who are catastrophically injured in a car accident, those wages are capped. And they are capped at a rate where people are still, when I say wages, I mean wage loss, they're capped at a rate that is still going to make it impossible for them to pay their bills. So if I had to pick one thing, and just one thing, it would be to make sure that the provisions that were brought forth in one fair wage and increasing the minimum wage in a dramatic fashion and not the slow incremental one is changed so that people can at least put food on the table and pay their bills.
Thanks very much, Kelly. Appreciate it. And I read one thing and I thought, you got 5 minutes. I bet you can cover more than one. So I appreciate your willingness to bend the rules a little bit. Would anyone like to add anything? We still have 3 lovely candidates who are welcome to add if they'd like to. All right. All right, ladies, we're moving on to our next get to know you question. And this one is something very near and dear to my heart, food. If our state was represented by just one food, what food would that be?
All right, let's go from the top again. Julia.
Punchkis.
I'm not angry about them.
All right. Megan.
I'll go with pizza. That's my favorite. Pie-side pizza. If you guys haven't tried it down in Detroit, my absolute love.
Good things. All right, Denise.
Well, is candy too broad a statement?
I mean, you have to go with a specific candy and not black licorice. If that's it, you will lose this election. So don't even pick black licorice.
I have to say I do like it, but I think I'm going to go similar to Julia and take some baked goods. I will go for chocolate cake with some really dark chocolate frosting. Not healthy, but good.
Nicole?
So I'm going to go with chili dogs because we have several competitors. We have the 2 Coney places in Detroit, and then we have Flint Coney dogs, which are completely different. So I would say, and we have Cocoa hot dogs here in Michigan. So I'm going to go with the chili dog.
All right, Kelly.
I got to echo Laura's sentiments on black licorice. It's awful. And I was thinking pizza, but then I thought, well, craft beer, because it shows how many folks around Michigan, they have a different idea as to what beer should taste like, whether it should be fruity or sour or a black and tan. There's something for everybody when it comes to craft beer.
And I think we could make a killer meal with all of those things. Like, let's put them all together and pig out when this is all over. I think that's a good thing to do. All right, moving on to a more serious topic than food. Our next question is water. And our candidate is Julia Pulver. All right, Julia Pulver. So at our last candidate forum in 2018, we had a question about the preservation and ability of clean water. In the 2 years since, we've all become more aware of the problems with our local waterways and shorelines. What measures will you support to protect our water, both for drinking and recreation?
So one of the best things about this district is our lakes. We have so many small inland lakes. Some of them are connected. It's our way of life. We are a lake community. And it's not just that our property taxes are tied to it, our weekend activities, or at least they used to be, fishing, boating, that's who we are. And it became very apparent that we have really neglected our duty to be good stewards of the water in this state, and even locally. We have seen, big polluters that have been, putting PFAS into our water tables, that have really just been able to, do whatever they want. We had a majority who crammed through the polluter panels, during the last lame duck so that the corporate polluters get a say in environmental regulations. This is just bonkers. Water is something that should be completely apolitical. It is, our bodies are about 70% water. I had a biology teacher in college who says, humans are nothing but a big bag of dirty water. Water is life. We all need it. We have no alternative to it. So the fact that we are so connected to water as a state, as our identity, personally, even locally, and we have allowed all of this pollution to build up, to contaminate our fish, to really threaten everybody who lives here, who plays here, is really just unconscionable. So we absolutely have to hold corporate polluters accountable. We need to have better oversight. I think what we've seen happening is is a great case study in what happens when you demonize, regulations. And that's, Republicans love to say, oh, no, we don't need these regulations and this red tape. Well, look what happens when we don't have them. We have, companies that are doing things that are good for their bottom line, but they're harming all of us in the long run. We have Enbridge that right now has this aging, decaying tunnel that's going right under the Straits of Mackinac. They have, had a history of having spills in the past, the Kalamazoo River, and we are gambling every single day right now by allowing this to continue to go on. So we really need to listen to not just environmentalists, but also, the Native community in Michigan has put together a very strong statement and position to say, this is our life. This is, our entire future, our children's future, and we can't gamble it anymore. And if we do, we will never be able to forgive ourselves for contaminating 20% of the world's fresh water. So we absolutely need to hold corporate polluters accountable, stop things before they happen. We are seeing, what happens when we don't take warnings seriously, and we have to play catch up instead of doing prevention. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I didn't coin it, but the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I think we're all living through that right now. So let's not tempt fate. Let's continue to be proactive in protecting our water, hold corporate polluters accountable when they do put forever chemicals in our water that are harming all of us. And let's really start to look at how we are treating water as part of our human existence, part of our human rights, and not something that is, you know, this sort of tangible or intangible concept of, you know, well, we should just have good water. Okay, but what does that actually mean? And how are we making sure that everybody gets it?
Thanks very much, Julia. Would anybody, and by anybody I mean, well, not Julia, Denise, or Nicole. Looks like Nicole wants to say something. There you go, Nicole.
Hi, hello. Yeah, so water is one of my top issues, and Michigan is called the Great Lakes states for a reason. We have the Great Lakes that surround us, but unfortunately, we have a lot of water justice issues. When this pandemic hit, we had households in Detroit that didn't have running water, and keeping ourselves safe, we're washing our hands. And how do you do that with the water shut off? And then, of course, we have the legacy of Flint and lead in the water. And then we have Nestle, who's exploiting our precious resources at a profit. And I know that the Huron Valley area has really felt the impact of PFAS. I mean, the Huron River has I don't know if it's current, but they've had a ban on fishing. In District 43 is the headwaters of the Clinton River. And fortunately, there's no contamination of PFAS that I know of, but I take those headwaters very seriously. And if elected, I would want to protect those headwaters because the Clinton River continues to flow south and east. And it's a precious area that we wouldn't want pollution to get into it from the headwaters itself. And another issue that isn't really talked about when it comes to water is ballast water. And that is the water that comes in the ships from the oceans and other lakes. And the ballast water is the water that's held in the ship. And in that water could be invasive species. And Republicans have resisted keeping funding to prevent contaminated ballast water, because the last thing we need is an invasive species in our Great Lakes, like an Asian carp or the sea lamprey or the zebra mussels. We've heard about these things, and it would be devastating to the ecosystem in the Great Lakes. And so these are just issues that I would definitely support. I would support legislation that would ensure clean, invasive, species-free ballast water for our ships. That's it.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Pulver? Wait, you already went? Oh, Denise, do you want to say anything about this or keep moving? Oh, Denise would like to say a little bit about this one.
Teachers always ask questions. We have one more topic to get to, correct?
Correct.
And if we talk on one, do we use up all our time?
Correct. And the one that's remaining is state revenue production.
Well, since I'm on here now, I would just jump into the PFAS issue because it's in our water and our watersheds, and 3M, DuPont, and 15 other groups are being sued by our Attorney General right now, Dana Nessel, to clean up their mess. And PFAS causes a lot of problems. It causes cholesterol, LDL levels to rise in humans, and it affects about 1.9 million people. It's in our drinking water, so that's kind of huge in our area. And we have the green ooze that's pouring out in Madison Heights, green algae, etc. So I would like to put teeth back into the polluter pay law. Michigan's environmental policies were like amongst the best in the country in the 90s, and then folks got to that polluter pay law and they really watered it down to favor corporations like DuPont and 3M, which are all that Teflon, all that stuff that DuPont and 3M make are what's causing the PFAS. And it's back in Wixom. I think it's still back in the headwaters in the Huron River, and Ann Arbor is suffering a great deal down there, where the Huron River flows down, and a lot of that poison goes down into that water. And not to mention the problems we've had with Flint and emergency managers. I'd like to make some stronger laws concerning not putting corporations over people, which is kind of what happened in the Flint area to save money. You know, they shut down the water, reconnected it by someone who didn't know what the heck he was doing because he was an emergency manager. So all that is kind of connected, and you know, I'm hoping emergency managers go by the wayside in the Whitmer administration. I know that we got a bigger fish to fry right now with the pandemic, but you know, I'm really hoping that emergency manager law goes away, because it not only affects municipalities, it's going to affect schools. And when we're looking at upwards to $2,000 less per pupil, a lot of districts, including Huron Valley, could dip way below a 5% fund balance on our way down to zero and be taken over by emergency managers. And they do no good at all. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thanks, Denise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have one question remaining. It is focusing on state revenue production, and so I really didn't even need to pick this paper, but I did because it's fun. And also didn't even need to pick this paper, but let's show Megan's nice logo here. So our final question goes to Megan McAllister, and this is about state revenue production, which I will secretly tell you is the proper way to talk about possibly tax increases. So for those of you who may be new to framing, we're talking about state revenue production and where is the revenue coming from in order to do the things we want to do as a state. So here we go for Megan. Our state, along with others, will have a huge budget shortfall post-pandemic. Please discuss a few ways the state might rethink our tax structure and come up with other ways of generating revenue moving forward.
So one of the biggest things to me is the fact of the inequities of the tax systems. When someone like Warren Buffett makes a public statement that he pays less in taxes than his secretary, I really just get irked to my soul. The fact that we have those at the top that continue to get the breaks, and yet the rest of us are paying, a regressive tax that, still has so many shortfalls in it. If we can, in Michigan, to have an opportunity to redo the tax structure. I mean, nobody likes to have more taxes. There's no question about that. But if we were to change from our flat income tax, which we currently do, we're one of the few states, and if we were to shift that instead to a graduated income tax level, one where those at the top pay more, not those at the bottom, then we're having a situation where we could have a larger income come into the state. Much more production would be able to be used. Because every issue that we've talked about tonight, every issue that we talk about every time in the state house and across the state, it comes down to money. We can all have our great ideas, our thoughts about what we need to do, but the brass tacks of it is that we have to have enough money in order for us to get that job done. And personally, I think that the way that we do it is by switching to that graduated income tax. Now, this is not an easy task for us to do here in our state. It would be a matter of changing the Constitution or getting a big ballot initiative going through to get that passed. But I think that that could be something where those at the top, the DeVosses of our state, are going to start to pay their fair share in order for us to have enough money to get through. From our roads to our education to our water, everything needs more money, and those at the top don't need any more breaks. And let's make sure that we're taxing them more in order to get a more even playing field in our state.
Thanks very much, Megan. I appreciate that. Okay, the cheese that stands alone is Julia Pulver, and I saw that she had her hand up. So, Julia, let's talk about state revenue production.
Looking at my own face puppet in the video is kind of surreal, but that's awesome. One thing I wanted to highlight, and I agree with everything Megan said, And I'm not a fan of, giving tax incentives to business with no strings attached. I feel like we give away all the tax incentives and really don't get a whole lot of return on investment for that in local areas. And we just give away these big, giant tax breaks to companies to come here, again, with very little strings. We don't ask that they have union jobs or that they guarantee a living wage, or they, are going to be, providing anything above and beyond, very minimum wage jobs with very limited benefits. The one exception I'll make, though, and this is what I would love to see, is to bring back the tax incentives for the movie industry. We had a great program in Michigan. We made movies here. And with those movie film crews came a ton of union jobs. One of my supporters moved to Michigan decades ago when they had this, or it was, 2004, 2006, that area. She was the accountant that worked for a lot of these different film companies. And she said, I can tell you exactly how much revenue we as a state lost when we stopped doing that. And again, these were good union jobs. These were things that, put Michigan on the map. And when a movie crew goes into an area, everybody benefits. There is a ton of jobs, and they may be, temporary, but that is still an infusion of cash into those local areas that can really be beneficial. And so that is one thing I would love to see. I want to make movies in Michigan again, and I really would love to see that come back.
Thanks so much, Julia. I think that's all of our questions. And I think you were all asked to bring a prop. Is that right? Yes? Okay. So you've seen my props. You've seen my knit hats, the 2 big and the 2 small knit hats, my little garden I built. So now we're going to shift it over to you. And each one of you has a prop, and you have 2 minutes to share that. And please know that at the end, after that, we will put up your contact information so people have that on the screen. So if that was going to be part of your 2 minutes, take that 2 minutes and talk about that prop. All right, and I think we'll go ahead and start with, do we want to go reverse alphabetical? Jonathan, who's reverse alphabetical?
Jeez.
Hold on. Pulver, I think Pulver is.
All right.
Yeah, I think it will go Pulver, Forrest, Breen, Breadon. No, Pulver, McAllister, Breen, Breadon. Go Pulver and I'll figure it out.
Okay. So this thing, sorry, my background is making it hard to see. Maybe let me take this off real quick so you can see it a little bit better. So I don't know if anybody has one of these things, but this is called an Angry Mama. And it is a thing that helps you clean out your microwave. You take it off, you fill it with vinegar, and then you put it in your microwave for 2 minutes or so. It heats up and kind of, aerosols the inside of your microwave, and then you're able to wipe it out really easily. I've loved this thing because, of course, now home and microwaving everything and feeding themselves most meals because I'm working. We have had to do a lot more microwave maintenance lately. So this is my Angry Mama. You can see her. This is me most of the time.
Thanks, Julia. All right, so I figured out the order. It goes Pulver, McAllister, Forrest, Breen, Breadon. Oh, there's... Hi, kids. All right, so next is McAllister. Megan, go ahead and share your prop.
All right. Well, I went with my very favorite movie of all time, The Cutting Edge, which I know line by line and I can recite without the movie on. My husband did not believe me when I met him that I could do that. And so he had to hear me and my best friend, Katie, recite it back and forth, line by line. We got about, maybe 15 minutes into it. And he's like, okay, I promise, I trust you. You can recite the whole movie. But if you've never seen this, fantastic flick, Cutting Edge. It's about hockey player, ice skater, and a lot of love.
Topic.
It really is a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. Now I feel like I need to just stop everything. We'll do a big viewing party. We have a big dinner we can have, and then also a viewing party. Fundraisers for everybody. All right, Denise Forrest, your prop, please.
Okay, well, okay, let me go get it. I don't know if this is gonna show up backwards or forwards, but I did, yeah, I don't know if you can see it. You see that? This is Etch-a-Sketch number 2. I had my original Etch-a-Sketch from when I was a little girl, and my kids used it when they were little, but we all wore it out. So I pulled this off the top shelf as I was looking for prop number 1. This is second place. So I thought prop number 1 would be fitting also, which was a cookbook from my grandma Yetta from the 1940s, and it was A Way to a Man's Heart, literally on the front, settlement cookbook, A Way to a Man's Heart through his stomach. And I'm pretty sure I got my rice making husband that way, but I do love to cook. I do love art, and I think this is like the original. It says Forrest for 44. I'm a little rusty, but I made it happen earlier. This is like the original instant message that's not so instant. And I want people to know that I embrace the old school world and the new school world. So I am well-rounded, to say the least. So that's me.
I'm impressed with your Etch-a-Sketch or your Etch-a-Sketch game, Denise.
Sketchers.
Very, very good. Very good. All right. Next is Breen. What do you have, Breen?
Hi, I was stuck between 2. So what I have here is a book called The Art of Roughhousing, which is actually written by a classmate of mine from Northville High School, Dr. Anthony Benedict. And I have my plaque of being a JV captain for my soccer team, also at Northville High School. I'm gonna put my finger over the year there. And I chose these because in the middle of all this pandemic, we need to remember to have fun. The importance of play. It's for our mental and physical health. And that's what that book is all about. And it jives with the fact that I was a soccer player for 25 years. I had 3 leg surgeries. Each time I got back on the field. And I was elected soccer captain, not because I was the best player, but because I was a pretty good leader, although I was a pretty good player too. And it requires being tough. It requires sometimes getting, right there in the mud, accepting a slide tackle and then giving one back, just like politics.
All right. Thank you very much, Kelly. All right, Nicole, you are
Bringing up the rear.
You are.
So Sherry mentioned that I am the wife of Todd for 20 years. We are actually celebrating our 20th anniversary in August. So almost 20 years ago, Todd and I got married in Las Vegas. And then we drove to California and we drove up the West Coast on Highway 1 in a convertible, and it was beautiful, except for I was pregnant and I had morning sickness and I didn't feel good, but it was still an amazing trip. And we did end up in San Francisco. And we ended up in Chinatown in San Francisco. And I picked up this Lucky Cat tea set that I have cherished ever since, and I carefully brought it home on the plane. And it comes with four little teacups. It has a little tray. And why this is significant because although we were going to celebrate our anniversary in August, we were going to travel to Las Vegas in November, because obviously heading off in August in the middle of election is probably not the best idea. And I'm a little sad because probably it won't be safe to travel to Las Vegas in November, so we'll have to celebrate another time. But I wanted to share my tea set because it's one of my most cherished items.
Okay, Nicole, before anything bad happens to that tea set, for the love of God, put it someplace safe. I was so nervous with you holding that there that this was.
Oh no, watch. Look at, I can balance it with one hand.
No, you're making me too nervous, All right, thank you very much, ladies. We're so fortunate, like I said at the beginning, to have outstanding candidates. We can't go wrong with these candidates. We're fortunate, and we are going to work our rear ends off however we do that in this mysterious world of campaigning the way we've never campaigned before, and reaching out and getting in touch with people. And our job as people listening to you on this forum is to really be inspired and motivated and start really working hard for you, because we want to make sure that you're there. We need you there. So I'm going to do what I always do before candidates say goodbye, and I'm going to ask Jonathan to please put up the contact screen. And I'm going to encourage every single one of you to do one or all of the three things I'm going to talk about. Number one, please make sure you follow these ladies on social media, and you like every single post, and you retweet, and you re-Instagram, I don't know, all the things. You do all the social media things for them. So please follow them on social. Everybody can do that, whether you're in their district or not, and amplify their messages. Make sure that everyone sees that they have the support of people, and people are excited about their campaign. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is work for them. These campaigns are built on the backs of volunteers, and they're going to need you more than ever. And as much as I hate talking to people on the phone, more than really anything in the world, I will pick up the phone and I will call people and tell them to vote for all of you or one of you. We will write postcards. We will do all of those things, and we know we need to. It's so important. And then the third thing is every single campaign right now needs money. They need donations. And one of the things that struck me in 2018 was they believe you're viable, and I'm just going to give it they believe you're viable if people donate to your campaign. And right now, more than ever, fundraising is hard. People are concerned about if they're going to have a job at the end of this, when they're going to get a call that they're on a furlough, or they're working even harder than they've ever worked before and can't even think about doing something else. But these candidates need you. They need your financial support. If you can set up a monthly donation, please set up a monthly donation. If you can write a check, write a check. If you can do in kind, do in kind. But make sure that you're thinking about your finances and figuring out how you can support these folks. They're going to need to do a lot of mailing, more mailing probably than they've ever had to do before. And postage is expensive. It was probably the biggest expense for the campaign I ran. And so I know that they just need it. So look at your finances, figure out what you can do, support candidates. And I'll just say this as somebody who firmly believes it. You're going to get calls from the DCCC. You're going to get calls from a lot of places, and they're going to say, we'll help you spend your donation dollars. But if you have a candidate you like, please just give the money to that candidate. They will know how to spend it, and they will invest it in their campaigns. So that's what I always talk about at the end of these, is just making sure that you're giving in every single possible way you can from now until November. These candidates are going to depend on you, and we're rooting for every single one of you. I'm supporting as much as I can. So get out there or stay home. I don't know, stay home and do what you need to do to win. Sit your rear ends in a chair and win. And that's all for me. I don't remember who I'm passing it off to. I think maybe Nancy Check.
I'm so happy to be here, and I am so excited to have this opportunity to talk to all of you, because I'm following Laura Dodd, and I always get flustered because I always feel like I'm the bridesmaid behind the bride readjusting the train because she's just so awesome. So thank you. The one thing that seeing all these candidates does for me is it gets me really excited. I think back to 2017 when I went to the very first Indivisible Huron Valley meeting, and everybody in that room was united around one mission, and that was to just do something. And so here to help you out, I'm here to help you out to find that something that you can do in this world of Zoom, this world of quarantine where we can't get out, but there are things we can do for these candidates. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, but I want to, before I do that, remind you of the some things that we did over the last 3.5 years so that you know and you're reminded that this moment right now, this is it. Starting in January of 2017, we were on a mission for November 2020, and this is it. We are not going to be held back by a virus, and that is how determined we are. But let's remember what we did and how far we have come. In 2018, our group, Indivisible, was on a mission to do some things. And in that time period, we set the ambitious goal of doing 40,000 somethings. And we surpassed those somethings. Those somethings were phone calls, they were canvassing. We're not doing canvassing. Canvassing, phone calls, texting, putting signs out, writing letters in support of candidates, writing thousands and thousands of postcards. Those are the some things. And with that, we saw that in U.S. Congressional District 11, we not only flipped that district after we kind of nudged Dave Trott out of that position, but we put a woman for the first time in that seat. The top of the ticket in Michigan were 3 outstanding women, Gretchen Whitmer, Jocelyn Benson, and Dana Nessel. And let's not forget what we did here in Huron Valley. Thank you, Laura Dodd, for getting us to move that needle. We moved that needle by more than 10%, something unheard of. And we made the opposition spend money. And that goes a long way. Don't underestimate what we did in the 44th district. And let's not forget the proposals. Because of our hard work, we ended gerrymandering in Michigan. We also expanded voting rights so that we're in a position right now in 2020 where we can vote at home. So sorry, I get really fired up. But let's go on and see what we can do. Because just like Elizabeth Warren, we have a plan for that. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Let me find the screen that I want. I'm going to go to our website. I'd like to share our website. So anyways, this is our website, and this is the go-to place. I would like it if everybody would come to this website once a week, at least several times a week, every day, to check on things that you can do. I'm going to fix this up a little bit, but the first thing that you can do, and I'm going to show you a to-do list, and the very first thing you can do after this meeting is click this, go to our website. It's indivisiblehv.com. And go to our website and click that volunteer list and sign up to volunteer. What we will do is we will take your information and pass that along to the campaign. And we are focused primarily on our blue ribbon candidates of who you saw this evening. So fill out the form with we'll need your information, your first name, your last name, your email address, your phone number, and your home address. And that way we can connect you to the right candidate. We also, of course, need to know what you'd like to do. You could click all these boxes if you like, but we're focusing on phone banking and text banking, writing postcards / letters, and placing a yard sign. The other would be other. And so if you have a talent, if you're particularly interested in fundraising, writing letters to the editor, or any other talent that you may have, please check that box. At the bottom, there is a space for you to provide what you would like to do, what special area you would like to help in if you click the other volunteer button. You can also use this space if you're outside of our district, but you want to help in the 44th or the 38th or the 39th, write down where you would like to help if it's outside of your address or your precinct. So please let us know. So let's go back to the homepage. I will get back to the something button because that'll be one of the last things you will do. But one of the things, once you've signed up to volunteer, now you need to do that something that we were talking about. Now you need to find that something. So let me first show you a few things on our website, and we'll get to the some things. As you scroll through our website, you can see that we do have a section for you to donate, and to Indivisible Huron Valley, and up until the end of May 31st, Indivisible National will match our funds up to $500. So please donate. We can use that money not for specific candidates, but we can use it for getting out the vote. So, and that will free up the other dollars that we've collected to do things like make value signs and fund other activities that we do that will also help in this election cycle. We also, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a reminder of when our next meeting is. And as you go through, there is other information, general information about our meeting, a link for coronavirus resources, and also on the right-hand side, the upcoming events. That will link you to our calendar. We always feature our meetings, so please check out our site. You'll see where when our next meeting is, how to connect to it, and who our guest speakers will be. And between now and the end of the end of our election cycle, we will be having a lot of candidates coming in to visit us every month. And then at the bottom, oh, I think we know who these people are. These are our blue ribbon candidates. And as Sherry explained, on the left-hand side, there's an explanation of how we've arrived at those candidates. There are also two other faces at the bottom here, and these are two other blue ribbon candidates. They are running for County Commissioner, Jim Williams, as well as Karen Adams. If you come to this site and you click on any of these pictures of the people who have websites or Facebook pages, you will be able to find out information about the different candidates. It will take you right to their pages. This is the somethings. Indivisible Huron Valley Democracy 2020 group, we have identified 2 postcard or 2 writing activities to get out the vote. And these are directed at Michigan. The first is postcards to Wisconsin and Michigan. These are postcards. You could go to the link by just clicking on this image. It'll take you to their site, and you can sign up to receive postcards and write postcards. They come in packets of 200. We are working to do a bulk order and break those down into smaller packets and make them available to our members so that you don't have to commit to writing to 200 postcards. So we're working on that. They will provide you with the script, they will provide you with the postcards, and they will provide you with the addresses. These are all handwritten postcards that you will be writing out, and you will be saving them until October 27th when they ask you to mail them out. You will also be providing postage. But with the money that we collect, Indivisible Huron Valley, we will be able to help you with that postage because this is a Get Out the Vote campaign. The other is Vote Forward. Vote Forward, Indivisible National has partnered with Vote Forward to bring forward voting. And these are letters. They will provide you with the letters. They will provide you with the addresses. You will have to supply the envelopes, the postage, and you will have to, in the letter template, you will have to write a specific note, a personal note about why you vote. And those are also going out October 27th. And I say that October 27th, but that may change because in Michigan, we do have absentee voting. So voting at home and that date, and it's going with the coronavirus, that may be the only way to vote or the primary way to vote. So we might actually be moving that up. So keep coming back to our Facebook page and we will update that information. So that takes you through our Facebook page and that gives you one of the somethings to do. But there's another place where you could look for somethings. And this is our calendar. And this is where I need the help from candidates. And this is where we, as Indivisible Huron Valley, we can help the candidates. So if the candidates would send me information about actions that they have coming up or town halls, I would appreciate it. Send your information to Nancy.Check, my last name is spelled C-Z-E-C-H, at indivisiblehv.com. And I will get your information on our calendar. But for volunteers, action is in green. So when you come to this calendar, and you come to the calendar just by going to our website and clicking on the calendar link, and you will find all the actions in green. If you're interested in attending a town hall, those are in purple. The candidate forums are in yellow. Indivisible Huron Valley meetings are in blue, and fundraisers are in red. And the gray are all informational or instructional events, and the brown are the Eco HV events. That's our local environmental group. So the first thing you're going to do is volunteer. The second thing that you are going to do is find something to do. The third thing that you will do is you will do that something. And the final thing that you're going to do is you're going to record your somethings or send those the number of somethings that you did to us so we can record it and add it to our totals. And the way you do that is come to our website and go to that button right up here in the corner under volunteer and click on that, and voila, you get to another form. And this form is for recording the something. So these are all the actions that you have done, and we would like to keep track of all those somethings. And one thing that I would point out, when you record your somethings, you have to record a separate, you have to fill out complete a separate form for each type of action and for each campaign. And I give an example. If you did 25 postcards and made 50 phone calls for Denise Forrest, but you also sent 150 texts for Gary Peters, you would complete 3 different forms, one for Denise's postcards, one for her phone calls, and another for the Peters text message. We need your full name. We need what you did. So postcards, make phone calls, others. If you did an other, fill out the next question. Let us know what that other was. And then who benefited from that. And these are our blue ribbon candidates. Other, if it was outside of the blue ribbon candidates, click other. And then again, fill out the information below and tell us what that other that you did. And then the last thing, of course, is how many did you do? So in this number, put the number of phone calls you made, the number of texts you sent, and the other information. And use the space, and then you can use the space below to expand the answer. Here is what I wanted to share with all of you. This is the to-do list. And you can find everything on to do right on our website. Here is the sign up volunteer form. Here's where you find your something to do on our website. You do your something, then you record your somethings, and you watch that total grow. We will be putting a graphic on our Facebook page on a weekly basis once we get rolling and start collecting those somethings. Look for that in about midsummer. We'll start putting those totals up. But please, if you've already written postcards, they count. So go back, figure out how many postcards you did, go to our website, click on the somethings, and start adding those somethings in. And then every week you'll see this grow. This was one of the early graphics that we had, and you can see it started at about 4,000. We started recording them, and it blossomed into 40,000. Thank you so much. Thank you for being patient with me as I fumbled through all of that. I hope you understood. If you have any questions, please shoot them through to me, and I will be going through and adding all those events that I see in the chat. So thank you so much. Please get out there. Please work, because together, you can do this. Every single one of you have the power to do this, and I can't emphasize it enough. We saw it in 2018. All these candidates that ran, they know what we're talking about. They need volunteers. They need your donations. So please be there for them, and we'll make this happen, and we'll make this nightmare end for all of us. So thank you very much, and see you at some event on Zoom, and get us out of here. Thank you. Good night.
Well, thank you. And I'm a pretty good cheerleader, but Nancy, our absolute best cheerleader. So I'm so glad you got to hear that. I feel badly because we wanted to get to hear so much from all these amazing candidates. We didn't really leave time for questions from the audience. So please, if you have questions for the candidates, if you didn't do a screenshot or get a chance to write down the information on the slide, if you just go to our webpage and click on that candidate, they are all blue ribbon candidates. It will pull up all of their information, and you'll be able to contact them directly and have a personal dialogue about whatever issue it is. And know most of these people. I'm only just getting to know Megan. I know most of the other ladies from 2 years ago. When we started Indivisible in 2017, one of the big wah-wahs coming out in the media was, well, we've lost it. The progressive candidates, it's not a deep enough pond. They're never going anywhere. And I think we've proved them wrong over the last 4 years. So we've got to hang in there. We have amazing people to support. We have our work cut out for us. Like Nancy and Laura both said, get over the fact you don't like to make phone calls, because guess what? That's how we're going to make a difference. And we'll all support each other and get through this. And just as a closing note, our next meeting will be on June 10th, another Wednesday evening. It's always second Wednesday. And we are going to have a really, I think, important program for this time. It started out, the topic was going to be healthcare and taking care of yourself as an activist. Well, that's certainly important, but we all need to get better about taking care of ourselves during this current climate and what we're all living through. So we have a speaker who has done this. Rhonda's just amazing and has so much to offer. And then we will also still continue to have some candidate visits at each meeting. So follow our Facebook page. You'll have that information. It'll be up on the website. If you're one of our members that are on the mailing list, you will be getting John's follow-up newsletter, and it'll have all that information and all the information from tonight in it. And also, just to give a little plug, Henry, who's co-chair, runs a Saturday summary meeting every Saturday after our meetings. So if you wanted to check into that. That link was in the newsletter. It will also be up on the website. And it's just sort of a chat about the issues we talked about at the meeting, and anybody who wants to dive into that a little deeper with like-minded people. So thank you for all of you who stayed to the bloody end. Very nice to have you all here. And this was a great turnout and a wonderful presentation. And I can't thank Laura Dodd enough for offering to be our moderator, because nobody does it better. So unless somebody else on the steering committee has something to share, I think we're going to call it a night and say goodbye.